Obasanjo, Nigeria must do everything to avoid another civil war. From the cable, I open the Punch newspaper. I saw this. God forbid Nigeria sees another civil war. Obasanjo. I open another newspaper. I see it like this. Nigeria must never experience another civil war. Obasanjo warns. And then finally, I open another one. I saw this one. This one says, Obasanjo, Nigeria cannot survive another civil war. Says causes of 1967 conflict still persist. When I saw this one, I got more interested in this. Obasanjo said that Nigeria cannot survive. And the thing is that what causes the 1967-1970 war that is still exists in Nigeria? Does that not give you a concern? Well, when I saw this, I said, okay, let me go through this and see what really Obasanjo is saying. And those things he said that are still existing that caused the 1967 war. Please stay with me. Now, if you go down to this news, okay, let me zoom it so we can read it together. If you go down to this news, it says, former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has warned that Nigeria must never experience another civil war, stressing that many of the issues that triggered the 1967-1970 conflict remain unresolved within the country's institutions and among its diverse ethnic groups. Obasanjo is saying that many of the issues that caused the civil war, that they are still, in existence in Nigerians' institution today. Okay, going further, it says, Obasanjo gave the warning on Wednesday at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, OOPL, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, during the presentation of a historical publication titled Asaba Massacre by the Isama Aje of Asaba, Chief Chuks Ndoka Eze. So somebody wrote a book and he titled that book Asaba Massacre. All right. So Obasanjo was presenting or, putting that book in his library in Abeokuta. That was where he made this statement. Okay. The former president said that although he participated in the Nigerian Civil War, he could not give a detailed account of the Asaba massacre because the area was under the command of late General Murtala Mohammed. All right, so Obasanjo said that he couldn't give much detail or he couldn't give any account of the Asaba massacre. Of course, I'm sure most of you know about the Asaba massacre, right? So Obasanjo is saying that he couldn't give details of that event because it was under the command of late General Murtala Mohammed. Now, going further, it says, I must confess that I was involved in the Civil War. When people talk about the Asaba massacre, I always admit that I cannot give details of it because Murtala Mohammed was in charge of that operation, Obasanjo said. Okay, he disclosed that he had often been asked about Murtala's role in the Asaba operations, but had refrained from commenting. However, he promised to study the historical compilation, including its transcript and audio materials. So Obasanjo has said that he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know much about the Asaba massacre because it was under the command of Murtala Mohammed. However, he said that he's going to study, read some books, read some, audio visual materials to get, the full details of what happened there. Now, finally, on this, Obasanjo went further to say, look at this. He said, some of the things that led to the Civil War are still with us today. How long will they continue? He asked. Obasanjo said that some of the things that caused the Civil War, they are still in Nigeria today. How long will this continue? Obasanjo asked. Okay? Recalling a conversation with the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, Obasanjo said Gowon had maintained that Nigeria would not survive another civil war. Of course, Obasanjo has said it, General Yakubu Gowon has said it, that Nigeria cannot survive another civil war. And of course, no nation survives two civil wars. No nation anywhere has ever survived two civil wars. I believe we have fought one civil war too many already. To say we will have a second civil war, God forbid, there will be another civil war in Nigeria. We must learn from the past, condemn what happened that should never have happened, and do everything humanly possible to prevent a reoccurrence. We must be able to say never again, never again. So that is what Chief Olusegun Obasanjo said. But then, talking about civil war, oftentimes I hear people talk about, the Nigerian Biafran civil war, what happened? We've not really taken time to ask questions. What happened? Who caused this war? And what are those things that happened there, that happened then, that are still happening now? Nobody has has taken time to ask those questions. But before we get into that question, if you remember again, on the 11th day of May 2026, just few months or few weeks ago, General Olusegun Obasanjo said something that I'm sure some of you didn't see. I told you on this channel, I get you the informations, authentic with evidences. Obasanjo said on the 11th of May, look at this, he says, civil war, Nigerian troops shouldn't have fought Biafran soldiers, Obasanjo, on the 11th day of May 2026. That Nigerian soldiers wouldn't have fought Biafran soldiers. Then, what really happened? I tell you, these people are making confession bit by bit, but the thing is that we are not understanding. If you remember the confession that Gowon made last year and the ones he has made this year, 2 times this year, he has said some things about the Nigerian Biafran war. Even to the point he said that the bullet that the Nigerian soldiers shot at Biafran soldiers, that it didn't hit the Biafran soldiers, that it was hitting at palm tree. So many things he has said, and yet we are not learning from it. Let me give you the details of it before I tell you something that will shock you again. Please, stay with me.
Former President Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo has warned that Nigeria must never experience another civil war, asking that the country should learn from the painful lessons of its past and do everything possible to prevent a reoccurrence of the ugly incident. He stated that Nigeria had no business fighting the civil war, as it made renewed appeal while receiving documentary materials on the October 1967 Asaba massacre at his Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library in Abeokuta, the state capital.
I don't want to say things. I believe when I read, and I will try and go through the transcript and what we have in the audio and video. How much did you know that? But there's that possibility. But again, that President General Gowon had publicly acknowledged and apologized. I think is something also for us to be able to say, well, at the highest, because he was a boss at that time, at the highest level, it was not condoned. At the highest level, it was not ordered. At the highest level, it was condemned. I think that you are also right. What lesson can we learn? We have to learn lesson. As I said in some speech I was making, some of the things that led to the civil war are still with us. Yes. Now, how long will this be with us for? I think it's one of my colleagues, General Yakubu Danjuma, who said we will not survive a second civil war as a country, and we should. I believe that we have fought one civil war too many already. So to say that we will have a second civil war, God forbid.
So what would ever make Obasanjo to come out to say this? Don't you think that something is going on? Don't you think so? Please, listen to me carefully. Now, according to Obasanjo, he said, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has said Nigerian troops should not have fought Biafran soldiers during the Nigerian Civil War, describing civil conflict as painful because citizens are forced to fight one another. That it was painful because citizens are forced to fight one another. Okay? He went further to say, Obasanjo made the statement in Abeokuta on Monday, May 11, 2026, while reflecting on his experience during the 1970 to 1970 Civil War and speaking on national unity and reconciliation. Speaking on national unity and reconciliation. It beats my mind since after the amalgamation or after the Nigerian Civil War till date. How many years? Is it 59 years or thereabout? We are still talking about Nigerian unity. It beats my imagination. Who would ever think or believe that? Okay, the former president who served as a commander during the war said, of course, you know that Obasanjo was a commander during the 1967-1970 war. You know, right? Now, said civil wars differ from external battles because the objective should be peace and unity rather than destruction. That the objective should be what? Peace and unity rather than destruction. So they knew all this and they still went ahead. Alright, according to him, Nigerian soldiers and Biafran troops were all citizens of the same country, making the conflict emotional difficult for many involved. So it was emotional difficult. Difficult because according to him that they are brothers. It's just like two brothers fighting in a family, according to Obasanjo. So you knew that we are brothers. Why then are you fighting me? It's all right. He went further to say, he said, we shouldn't have fought ourselves. Civil war is different from fighting external enemies because at the end of the day, you are fighting your brothers. At the end of the day, you are fighting your brothers. Finally, on this note, he said, he added that the lesson from the war should encourage Nigerians to promote peace, dialogue, and unity in order to prevent another national conflict. It also beats my mind that after 59 years, I hope I'm correct, of the civil war in Nigeria, that we are still talking about something to do to avoid another national war. It beats my mind. It beats my mind. And the Nigerian government don't really care about that. That is the confession former President has made. That come on, we shouldn't have done that, that we are all brothers, that we are all sisters. But as I always say, if you want to find or if you want to solve a problem, start from the root. Because if you don't start from the root of every problem, that problem will regenerate. Even if you cut it half, it will regenerate. Right? Ask yourself, what was actually the main reason for that fight? Why? For some of you that don't know, I'm going to tell us in this video so that you will know that what we are saying is real and confirmed. Please, I'm going to play a very short video for you now. I beg you to stay put. Listen to it. Maybe you will understand. Because what I see these leaders are trying to do now, what I see they are trying to do is that they want to, solve this problem halfway, or should I say, they want to cut it halfway and solve. Oh, everybody should forget. Oh, everybody should live together. Everybody should. Have you go to the root? What was the reason? Why that? Why that conflict? Have you asked that? And have you tried to solve that problem? That which is hidden will later be revealed. It's just a matter of time, I tell you. Now, please, I want to beg you to listen to this short video I want to play for you. Maybe you understand. Then you do well to drop your comment in the comment section. What you think about this, please.
The war aim of Biafra is purely to prevent ourselves being slaughtered, nothing more. We haven't got the sophisticated war aim of Nigeria to counter, to overrun, to do something or the other. For us, it's merely to prevent. And if anybody is going to judge our success and failure in this war, it will have to depend on how much we have prevented the enemy from killing us.
There are two things plaguing them in the zoo: lies and deceit. If not for the coming of IPOB, of Radio Biafra, all of you would have lived and died in the ignorance that Ojukwu caused a war. That's what they were writing. Britain helped them to write it. Ojukwu was a rebel, a secessionist, because we had no media. That is why they're paying Facebook billions upon billions of US dollars to stop this truth from coming out. Did Ojukwu cause any war? Go on is allowed, go and ask him. Did Ojukwu cause any war? Ojukwu went and negotiated restructuring with you in Aburi. You came back, Britain told you not to agree because Britain realized that all the component units of Britain knows that if you go back to regionalism, you will have economic growth. The country will do very well. But Britain doesn't want it. That was why they even instigated the Nzogu, so-called Nzogu, saying they will bring Awolowo to become the head of state. They knew what was going to happen. They wanted to truncate the economic miracle of Dr. Michael Opara. I'm telling you, at first, go and investigate for yourself. In the East, you have the fastest growing economy in the whole world, over 40% every year. In the West, Awolowo was performing his own miracle as well. Even in the North, Ahmadu Bello and Tafawa Balewa were doing very well. You had all those massive industries in the North. You even had Alamajiris that were employed in the North, meaningfully employed, gainfully employed. They were all doing very well. Britain said, no, for us to control this war, we need to impoverish them. Let us introduce this war. There was a coup by Nzogu. And after that, there was the massacre of, as usual, massacre of our people in the North. Ojukwu said, I have to secure my land and my people. They said, no, let's go to Aburi to discuss it. Ojukwu went to Aburi and agreed, restructuring. That's something now you're asking for. To tell you how foolish Nigerians are. They're very foolish. That same nonsense you're asking for now was discussed many years ago. Ojukwu sat down in Aburi with Gowon and decided that regionalism was the best way forward, restructuring, going back to who you were, 1963 Constitution, 1960-1963 Constitution. Be on your own and pay tax to the central government, as they have in America, as they have even in Britain. Britain, you have Scotland that is almost independent, Wales, the same thing, everybody is free, but Britain doesn't want the same thing they're enjoying to happen in Nigeria. Why? Ask yourself that question. Anybody telling you about one Nigeria is your enemy. I'll prove it to you now. Ojukwu negotiated devolution, regionalism. The North will be on their own, the West on their own, even Middle Belt on their, Midwest on their own, and then the East on their own. It's the same one Nigeria. On their way to the airport, before they boarded the aircraft, a call came from Lagos, from the British High Commissioner in Lagos to Gowon, telling Gowon not to agree. After having signed the agreement, that same Gowon you're looking at today, God kept him alive so that he can witness the destruction he will bring upon that very zoo called Nigeria. Gowon said no. Do you know all the journalists in Nigeria, none of them have ever gone to go on to ask him, why did he say no to Aburi? Aburi was restructuring. None of those agitating for restructuring right now has ever gone to go on or gone to Nigeria to say, but Ojukwu negotiated restructuring. What happened? They came back and they said no. Ojukwu said, okay, so you want to continue to kill my people all over the place? No, because of that I'll declare Biafra. Today, they have brainwashed all of you with the perverse notion and thinking that somehow Ojukwu is responsible for causing a war, when opposite is the case. If not now, that after many years of hammering on this very topic, it has now sunk into the skull of the people that Gowon was the aggressor, not Ojukwu. That's how Nigeria is. Always blaming the victim. And we lost over 5 million people during that very genocidal war. They killed over 5 million Biafrans. They wanted to wipe us away from the face of this very earth. But we survived it, and we are here today. Those they gave birth to, they have come. And this time with a wrath that you cannot even begin to imagine.